Hear ye, hear ye. Today I am discussing the latest episode of Duel Season 3, Fat Chat. 7 warriors are left, which means the end is in sight. Smokey says she feels like she's arrived in the competition. And Neon says the European alliance is useless because they've never been in a position of power to help each other out. And that statement doesn't improve in this episode. And Trans Jennifer is ready to leave the competition after the gaggatry of last week. Neon talks her up and Trans decides to stick with it. She says she's not a quitter. And thank God she didn't quit, but we'll get there. So it's time for a side quest hosted by the lovable Susan from Season 1 of Dragjaw. The warriors have to play a game I could win in my sleep, titled Taylor Swift Lyric or Death Row Quote. I literally have a Taylor Swift lyric tattooed on me, so needless to say, I got full points on this one. And why was everyone ragging on her? That's my queen. The bitch raised me. Hennessy and Heavy Cream end up with a tie for the side quest. And so it's the return of the infamous Fat Chat hosted by Bootsy. She will be interviewing the warriors in a celebrity impersonation talk show. This is a comedy improv challenge. The warriors must embody the celebrity they choose and make the judges laugh. As the winner of last week's challenge, Smokey has to use her power-up. She can either save someone else or herself from the challenge, meaning they cannot possibly be eliminated. She tells the chat she will most likely use it on herself. And I would have done the same thing. I mean, why not? She earned it. So we have Trans impersonating Melrose, Hennessy doing Rachel Dolezal, Smokey impersonating Little Richard, Heavy Cream as Ron Burgundy from Anchorman, Alex as Miss Piggy, Neon as Mrs. Claus, and Gwendolyn as Elvis. Smokey expresses her concern that Neon won't be able to elevate a fictional character like Mrs. Claus. And this edit made me panic because you all know that I love Neon. It's time for the Fat Chat, and the strongest competitor was definitely Trans. The improv was off the charts. I love how she kept calling Bootsy a different name, and her saying she was 30 seconds sober cracked me up. It was a slam dunk and a home run. Sports. Smokey also made me laugh. Alex was by far the weakest. I just didn't laugh. Sorry, baby. I also couldn't understand her. I don't think Neon did a bad job at all, but she did not seem to be making Bootsy laugh. I also want to add that I wish Hennessy had done him because I didn't know who Rachel was. As the warriors prepare for the runway, Trans says she wants to incorporate a very important message into her look. That message being the rights being taken away from her as a trans woman. It's a scary world out there, and it's important to keep fighting the good fight. Category is battle ready, and I gave my top 2 to Hennessy. I love this Digimon-inspired look. I clocked it immediately. I'm such a nerd. It's giving a bit of steampunk with a unique silhouette. So Smokey declares that she is using the power-up on herself, which we already knew. But not before she declares Neon and Alex as the weakest of the week. On the judging panel this week, we have Derek and Bootsy, Hydra, David Puck from Season 2 of Drag Duel, and Deja Skye from Drag Race Season 14 and All Stars 10. So it's time for the critiques, and first up is Alex Electra. David said she looked good and tried hard, but the jokes weren't landing. She was actually laughing at her own unfunny jokes, breaking character. On the runway, however, this was my sexual awakening. Next is Trans, and Deja says she could have a background in theatre, she was that good. She stayed in character the entire time, and Bootsy was struggling not to laugh. The runway was also very powerful, and I definitely understood what she was going for. Next is Heavy Cream. Bootsy said he was just okay with some funny moments. Hydra said it was boring. They also said that the runway look was too safe. I like that Heavy Cream carried the theme of Ron Burgundy. His Fat Chat made me want to rewatch Anchorman for the billionth time. Now we have Hennessy. They say she ran out of material halfway through, but she was very confident and relaxed. Hydra calls the runway ugly, but likes it. I think you mean amazing runway, Hydra. It's very different and very cool. Now we have Neon Noir. Deja says the character was all over the place, and Derek says it was too overcomplicated. There needed to be less explaining and more jokes. However, Derek says this is his favorite runway of the week. Deja says it's flawless, and I agree, this was my second favorite look of the week. But I have never watched nor played Mortal Kombat, so I don't really get the reference. Now we have Smokey. She was very funny, with fresh jokes that didn't encroach on the Kennedy Davenport of it all. She knows the art of improv. They also loved her Steven Universe-inspired runway. Last but not least is Gwen. Bootsy said she had funny potential, but the jokes went on for too long. And Derek says the pre-planned bits got in the way of Gwen paying attention and listening. David, Puck, and Deja were living for it though. And I really enjoyed Gwen's Elvis as well. It was sort of like Elvis with a tick. On the runway, however, Bootsy says it is her least favorite runway of the week. And so the results are in. Smokey is in the top, but Trans finally gets her first win. And would you believe this time she agrees with the judges? You see how that works? So well deserved, she was my winner too. Neon is saved thanks to her amazing runway, and Gwenacy is also saved. That's Gwen and Hennessy, leaving Alex and Heavy Cream to lip sync it out. They performed to Turn Me On by David Guetta featuring Nicki Minaj. Heavy performing in the hospital was such a great idea. This song is very doctor coded. Heavy gave it everything he had, and Alex looked hot as always. Those flips and backbends hurt to watch. It's a tough call this week, and the judges just can't decide. They go to Deja Sky for advice. She goes through the DEJA criteria and says Alex was her favorite. But that's still not enough, because this ends up being a double save. And yes, if you were ever going to do a double save this season, this was the one to do it on. And Trance does not agree. Bootsy implies that a double elimination is now on the horizon to make up for the double save. So my friends, what did you think of this week's episode? Who had your favorite Fat Chat and runway? Next week is a design challenge. The Met Gala is back with a brand new category. I cannot wait. And as I always say, another week with Neon Noir is a good week. But give me all the tea, and I'll see you very soon for another video.